All right. Well, it's time for us to get to the show. Today, we are talking to Jenni Nichols. Jenni is from John Burns Research and Consulting. They're a housing industry research hub. They deal with the data around new homes, renovation, everything around the market. Today, Jenni and I are going to be talking specifically about some of the reports in the New Home Trends Institute around housing trends. Now, the reason I want to bring you this piece of information, this interview, is so that you get a really good insight into what the trends are in the market so that you can support those when you are walking through a set of plans with a potential customer, whether it's residential or maybe even on a larger commercial project where you're dealing with multifamily. You want to have the information at your fingertips or know where to find it if you need it. So let's get to the interview with Jenni and we'll see you on the other side. Jenni Nichols, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. People don't know this, but you and I have already been on the phone for 5 minutes. Today's going to be a fun interview, I can tell.
Indeed.
Yeah. So today you and I are going to be talking about something that you really know inside and out, which is how creative thinking for contractors can be used so they can wow their customers. And you've got data and statistics to bring us today.
I do.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Before we start, though, people don't know you. So Jenni Nichols, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to all of these forward-facing contractors all over the world?
Good question, Dom. So I am VP of Design Lens at John Burns Real Estate Consulting. And you asked, what the heck is that? We're a research company that covers the nation in the US. And does research on the nation down to the markets, and as well as building product and design and trend research. And I'm part of the design and consumer research part of our business. How
so
I got
cool.
here.
That is so cool, by the way.
Yeah, I get to look at, I joked, it was funny, I was at an event locally for the industry, and I joked about how I got to look at cool pictures all day, and I deadpanned it. And I said, yeah, I get to look at cool pictures all day of homes. It's terrible. And the guy was a finance guy, and he actually felt bad for me. And then I had to laugh and correct him and say, no, I love my job.
I actually like what I'm doing. Yeah.
But yeah, so I started with an architect actually, and worked for an architect for years and asked lots of questions and learned a ton. And then started with John Burns, research and and started in consumer research. And now I'm where I am today. So
I'm thinking for the people listening, they may not know that consumer research happens. So when a big tract home builder, says, we're going to put 1,000 homes on this piece of land, and suddenly I just had an Arrested Development flashback. I don't know why. That one home on that terrace.
Yeah.
But if they're going to they don't just say, I think this would look good, or I think this is the trend. They come to, and I'm looking for you to correct me. Do they come to professionals like yourself to say, what do we need to build? Who are we building it for? And all those things?
I'd say the best come to us and actually do the research.
Nicely done.
Part of why we started, so I work with the New Home Trends Institute, which is our design and trend research and consumer research part of the business. And we really started it because some people do gut check it. I think this is what we should build. I think this is what counters we should spec. I think this is what cabinets we should spec. And they're not always getting it right. And so part of what we wanted to do is put the data behind the design and make it really easy for people to get access to consumer research. And so that they can look at what the consumer wants and actually have the data that says, hey, we should do it this way, or we should consider this elevation style, or not everybody does, but I think that's one way to really differentiate yourself is step back and pay attention to what consumers want and take it from there.
Yeah. Does the kind of reports that you guys deal with also apply to renovators, remodelers?
Indeed.
Oh, it does. Okay. So it's not just new homes.
No, actually, when we survey our consumers, it's home buyers who make at least $50,000 a year or more. So, or homeowners, I should say. So we're actually instead of just asking people about, new home shoppers or new home owners or new home buyers, I should say, we're just talking homeowners. So they could be in their house for 30 years. They could be in their house for 1 to 2 years, but it's really getting that perspective from what your audience talks to.
Yeah. So it's just really getting a sense of what people like. And then there's trends, right? Like there's regional trends, of course, somebody that lives in a mountain city versus somebody who lives by the ocean, California or Maine, it doesn't matter. Yeah. They have different, needs. How do you guys adjust for that? Because everybody, people listening to the show are all over the place.
Yeah. So when we do our surveys, what we do is, as the data is coming in, we make sure we're getting enough responses from around the country that we can create a good conglomeration of data. So when we group it together, it covers young to old, California to Maine, like you said, to Texas to Florida. Yeah. So we make sure it spans enough of the country, the life stages, that sometimes price points, sometimes urban to rural. It kind of depends on our focus, but we always make sure we have enough to be able to dig into what we want to talk about.
Yeah. And you and I haven't talked about this, so I'm going to ask the question and I hope it lands. But if I'm buying, if I'm going to build an apartment building in Galveston, Texas.
Yeah.
Does this data help as much as it would help if I was doing a planned community in the Pacific Northwest?
I'd say we speak less to apartments because we tend to cater to homeowners and people who are looking at home ownership versus renting. We do have a rental survey we're actually about to launch, but
so some people own their apartments though. That's what I meant, right?
Oh,
and I make that assumption all the time too, right? But in major centers, big cities,
yeah, you're right.
You can't afford to buy a house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's more affordable to buy an apartment or a condo or a townhome.
It's funny. I always call them condos or stacked flats. But I forget, like New York City, they call them apartments and you own your apartment. See, in Denver, where I'm located, apartments you rent and versus like townhomes or stacked flats. It's, gotta love regional lingo.
Regional lingo, yeah.
But yes, if you're living in an attached offering, this is a good way to say it. We talk to, people who own apartments or condos or stacked flats, to townhomes, to single family detached. So it's not just catering to, because I'm with you. I do own a home now, but when I worked for the architecture firm, I was in California, and this is a while ago, so it's gotten worse, but when $500,000 buys you a 1-bedroom condo that's not new, it just seems a little insane. But
that's a deal where I live, by the way.
Well, that's a deal in California now. Now it's more like 6s and 7s. Yeah.
Well, and those people are listening to the show.
Yeah.
People that built those are listening to the show. Hi, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, when I worked for the architect, it was California. So and I've been there, and then I've been in Denver, and I actually went to school in Philadelphia. So I've been around the country.
Oh yeah, you've seen the country. So there, and again, those regional variations, even on construction styles and types of soil that they're being built on, it changes the kind of house. Is it built on slab? Absolutely. Is it built with a foundation, etc.?
It's like basements are commonplace in Denver. Everybody pretty much has a basement if you have a detached home. And in California, no surprise, we have earthquakes in California. So needless to say, if you had a basement, you're just screaming, yes, please let my house crush me. So they don't do basements because of regulations and whatnot. But it's always fascinating to see the differentiation of, is the water level too high? Or do you have earthquakes? Do you build with this because you have hurricanes? So you have to step back and
put some regional flair to it. Yeah.
Take the data we have and then step back and say, okay, but how do I apply this to, this area of the country?
Yeah. Now I've seen at least a summary of the report.
Yeah.
It's quite the one that we were looking at earlier, where the components we're going to talk about today is home function edit and cozy preferences aligning with cost savings. Let's dig into those two. I thought they were pretty interesting.
Sure.
Is that the kind of report you guys produce, or is that like a high level overview and then you have much more detail?
So we typically, our monthly reports are really in depth. So we'll do one on kitchens or bathrooms or storage or sustainability, healthy homes. But once a year, and it really started in 2020, we wanted to do a year-end webinar. And all of us were like, if we talk about COVID one more time, I'm going to cry. So, so we were like, let's look forward to next year, because I want to think about next year when I'm not trapped in my home and I can go outside and enjoy things again.
Right. Yeah.
And then it continued, but we didn't know that at the end of 2020. So, so we started at the end of the year doing, well, it's kind of a themey thing, but like 20 trends for 2020 or 21 trends for 2021. Or
that's why this is 23 trends for 2020. See how I caught on right away.
Yeah,
good.
You did.
Good.
So part of what we do is look at what do you need to care about next year. And so it really, and we don't, when I say trends, sure, that, you know, there are trends of, do I want brass versus copper faucets? We don't track that kind of minutia. I mean, it's great to know that, but it's hard to be relevant longer than that year if you're getting that into that kind of a trend.
Right.
Versus we like to look at bigger picture things. You know, our white kitchens, well, that's a little nichey, but like, our white kitchen's still around. Yeah, you know, it's like the trend that won't die. It just sort of ebbs and flows.
Well, but I'm waiting for my avocado fridge to be back in fashion.
You will laugh. This was a couple years back.
Don't tell me this. Is it coming back?
It's not coming back, but it was.
Okay.
Though I have to say, Kohler did a whole throwback thing at International Builder Show this year, and they ended up letting people vote on what color should come back as sort of like the limited release on their toilets and stuff. And they came out, God, it was pink or peach. The color they picked was this, I want to say it was pink. And
Grandma's house. It's Grandma's house color. Yeah.
And it's for sale again for a limited time, which, yeah. So who knows? Maybe your avocado cabinets will come back and be hip.
Probably not.
Probably not. But one of the model homes I was walking, they were doing kind of throwback mid-century modern style.
Of course, yeah.
And they actually did avocado cabinets, and it became this sort of polarizing thing for people who were walking the models. But the funny part is everyone remembered that model and they all had an opinion about it because of the avocado cabinets.
So it stuck out.
It's interesting. Sometimes I don't know that I would recommend your contractors recommend avocado cabinets, but you know, sometimes doing something a little more daring does set your house apart and does sort of get people thinking and talking about it. You just have to be careful not to alienate them, I guess is the best way to put that one.
I mean, you can take it easy, right? You know, and there's always a different function. Like if we're going in and remodeling a home, you're remodeling it for people to stay in there, which is probably the most common. But if you're doing fixes and flips, then maybe you do want to get daring and try some elements. Actually, it's a good segue. What a great segue, Jenni. Thank you. Hey, I'm looking at the fifth trend, which is home function edit. And the report I'm looking at. So folks, if you can see me looking at different screens, it's because we're on YouTube as well. And then we've got prep material. But this is home function edit from you guys, which is consumers rethink their must-haves, making tough trade-offs that force homes to work harder with less space. So here we're not talking about new homes necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, no, I guess we are. I mean, if you're building a home, you don't have to have as big a footprint. But even in a reno, how to make your house work harder with less space. What does that mean when a contractor's walking through a home tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we've all seen how the market's gone and how inflation has shifted and how basis points have risen, and you know, the market's gotten challenging. And you know, when it's 6, 7, 8% interest rate, people are running into, you know, it's not 3 or 4% anymore. When you could, the scariest thing, one of my coworkers quoted, and this is for the Denver market, but when it was 3 or 4%, you could afford $1 million home. Now, and this was actually a few months back, so it's probably worse. Now you can afford about a $750,000 home. So when homeowners or potential buyers or renovators are looking at things like that, you know, when you're looking at taking out a loan to redo your kitchen, it's a lot more expensive than it used to be. So they're having to really look at, what do I want and what function do I need in my home? And they can't just especially with renovating. I mean, you need to think a little, how can my home work a little harder for me? And how can I make the best use of it?
So it's funny because I'm looking at the summary report, and
Yeah.
one of the points here, I'm allowed to read the summary point, right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So here's one of the things under home function edit. Expect fewer tubs. 25% of architectural designers are designing more primary bathrooms with an oversized shower and no tub, compared to 9% who are doing it less. So just as you said that, I thought, well, if I need to find more space for a family in their kitchen, the trend is you can steal it from the bathroom. I'm assuming a whole bunch of things, but that's what I do on the show. I assume. And people know that. They're giggling right now. But I could take it from there because and justify it or talk to the homeowner saying, well, the trend now is towards not having a tub. How often do you use it? Do you really need it? All those things. And you could steal that couple of square feet from the bathroom potentially.
Yeah. So it's funny with bathrooms. I always think if you have a family buyer, they probably need or want a tub in the house. But based on our research, it doesn't have to be in the primary bedroom, which, everyone always assumes, okay, I need a tub in the primary bedroom and I need it to be big and splashy. And, but whether you need it for the kids, which I have a 1-year-old and I actually have a big tub and I hate giving him a bath in it because it's too big and it's hard to reach into. And versus sometimes how do you give them that spa bath feel? Sometimes the tub is great, but sometimes, okay, put the tub in the secondary bathroom, do a shower tub combo, keep it simple, do what a lot of people already do, and then make that shower killer. Because if you have a small amount of space, trying to cram a tub and a shower in without making it a shower bath combo gets hard sometimes.
Right.
So it's really great when, and I love that the trend has shifted. It's really great when you can, get rid of the tub, demo everything, kind of start from, hey, if we're starting from scratch, but create a great space. Sometimes that spa-like bath is, a steam shower and it's.
Right. So change the functionality of other appliances, if I call them that.
Yeah. Well, or dual shower heads, or having a bench in there, or, having a dry area. So all of that, if you're making a decent sized shower, I always think sort of the best showers are like 2 people size. Because you don't want it too big. I mean, I've seen like the horse stall showers where you could literally fit a horse or like 6 people in there.
Yeah.
It's too big. It's too cold.
Those are I have to say, those are the bathrooms in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, clearly it's a lifestyle thing, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a family show. I just mean they have big families there.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always think 2-person or the size for 2 people, because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room to be able to move around. You have for stuff. You can put a bench in, and you're not standing with the water in your face with the bench there. It's about thinking, home function edit. It's kind of rethinking how we're, where we're spending the money and giving people the bang for their buck with less. So instead of, the great part, and this kind of goes with the other trend we're talking about too, the great part is when you cut out the tub, you save having to buy a tub and all of that whatnot. And you can spend more on a beautiful shower surround and multiple shower heads. And so it's sort of kind of a combination. You're saving money on doing, by doing less, but also, or maybe you're just pivoting where you're spending the money. I guess that's a better way to say it. But yeah, anyway, I realize I'm going in 12.
No, that's good though. I think so. It's excellent, right? And obviously you love what you do, which is good.
Yeah, I know that.
That's okay. I do the same thing on business, but everybody listening cares about this too.
Yeah.
And what we want this to translate into is, hey, the next time you walk into a home, but this is assuming renovator, not new home. When you walk into a home, ask the right questions and find out what somebody really needs. And then maybe don't be afraid to get a little bit creative and put some ideas on the table that, are different than the norm. Especially, I guess, if you're in a competitive situation where you come with some really cool ideas, Absolutely. That's going to put you in front.
Well, and I always think you got to think about how your person who you're working with, your client, how do
Mhm.
they live in their home? What do they want to do in their home? Because sometimes we have this sort of checklist in our mind. Well, I need, in the bathroom, I need dual sinks and a water closet and a tub and a shower and a massive walk-in closet and then you step back and it's like, okay, I have this much space and I can't necessarily fit all of that. What are my priorities? Okay, maybe the water closet's a big priority and I need two sinks. But okay, they want a spa-like bathroom. Well, how can I give them that in this square footage? And
Mhm.
I think it's definitely a must to get creative, especially um, I I always used to say when I worked for the architects, when you have 34,000 square feet, you can do so much in it. But even then, all of this still matters.
It
Because
does. And you can get wasteful with
get it
space
right.
too, or greedy with space
Oh,
and just,
absolutely. But with the small stuff, you have to be the most creative, I think, because you're making great stuff out of very small, everything has to be just so and just
right.
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 I agree with you on the bigger homes. It's so easy to waste space and add things in you don't need. And so yeah, it's about stepping back and thinking, what's the function for this and how can I best give my client that?
Yeah.
So
It just occurred to me a great way to do market research in your own market is go find a top builder and go look at their one bedroom apartment. Because when
mm,
the one bedroom apartments I walk through, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You literally could turn around, put down your, put down your shoes and you're like, you're done. You did everything within 2 steps. But the kitchen fits, they've got a Murphy bed or
oh,
some sort of multi-function furniture unit or station. The fridge, it's not like a ship's galley where you actually shower in the toilet, but everything is very tight and
yep,
very well engineered to the nth degree.
yep,
And the reason I say that is not so that a renovator or a new home builder goes and builds one bedroom places, but so you can see the new trends that are coming from other companies that are, researching these things and testing them through actually selling units.
yeah. Well, I always think my other favorite place to get ideas is like houseboats are really fun and RVs when they've done kind of renovations of them or hotel rooms. I've seen some pretty cool stuff in hotel rooms. Like one of the hotel rooms I stayed in, gosh, I think it was Vegas. So speaking of, but they had a little instead of having sort of the makeup vanity in the bathroom, they had it right next to the closet and it was outside of the bathroom and it was
Sure.
fantastic because I had better light. I wasn't in all the moisture. So, sometimes you have to wipe the
Yeah.
mirror down because
That's
it's
what
all
shaving foam's for. Put it on there.
oh, funny. So, yeah,
You didn't
not
know
having
that?
shaving foam, I
Oh,
don't.
yeah, I guess. Sorry.
Uh,
I've traveled too much for work.
ah!
That's my thing. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was great because it was so functional and I had fantastic lighting and sometimes it's looking at unique uses of space and how they've gotten creative with it. So
Yeah.
I'm with you. Looking at small spaces gives you a lot of ideas because you know what works and what doesn't. You can feel it.
Well, I'll tell you. So, thinking about hotel rooms, one of the things that they've tried, and I understand why they tried it, is the evolution of the shower in a hotel, because they have the standard showers, but then they put the what do you call it, the curved
Mhm.
shower curtain rail,
Yeah.
which is a very easy sort of fix or after post construction fix, right? It gave you that feeling of,
It's
your upper
bigger.
body. You could stretch your arms and not touch that gross, disgusting shower curtain. Well,
Absolutely.
newer hotels don't have a door on their shower, which has to save them an incredible amount of not putting doors. But if you don't make the shower big enough, I start to feel bad. I'm like, you're calling the plumber all the time
No,
because the
right?
floor is rotting. You can see
Yeah.
where the leaks are, and you call down to housekeeping and say, just so you know, it's leaking right out the front door. And they're like, yeah, okay. Yeah, the kid at the front doesn't care. But those are design flaws
Uh-huh.
started by the right idea, which is how do we maximize space, give it a funky feeling. And unfortunately, they should have extended that, the main pane of glass
Mhm.
3 or 4 more inches, because otherwise all the water's coming back out.
Yeah.
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 We don't
Mhm.
have many hotel owners listening to the show, I don't think,
I
but renovators. So let's switch gears. One of
know.
the other topics that is in the report is number 9 on the trends,
Yeah.
which is cool. I like the way you guys title these things. Cozy preferences align with cost savings. And so the subtitle is Consumer Appetite for Simple and Snug Provide a Breath of Relief to Designers Looking to Cut Costs.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
even that, I mean, that translates to me for your audience to clients who are looking to cut costs. I mean, homeowners renovating, this is just as applicable. You know, you got to know what matters and what's important. So I know kind of one of the things we touch on there is exteriors.
Yeah.
And it's funny. One of the things we've seen in our research is the country is getting more interested in modern architecture. So
okay.
not far, we do a little scale, and it's like a scale of 5, and they're like leaning towards modern. They're not far over to modern. But one of the cool things is we've seen is, okay, if they're more interested in modern, and this includes Texas and the Midwest, and so it's not like it's a California thing or a DC thing or something like that. One of the things you can do is take traditional styles and kind of modernize them. So if you're helping people as they're redoing the exterior of their home, one of the cool parts is not only is that trending and people want it, they want that little bit of a modern twist. It also saves you money. So if you're redoing their porch per se, or as an example, sometimes, opening it up and taking off the railing and sort of just leaving the columns where it creates a little bit more. I've seen people do that where taking a very traditional house and just sort of simplifying, gives that little bit of a modern twist, because you've got cleaner lines, and it saves money. If I would think about it,
less banisters or less railings, and
or not having to put sort of the rock or the brick on the base of, if we're going with Craftsman, the rock or the brick on the base of the column. But if you do the column shape, okay, I see the dominant front porch, I see that angled column shape that goes with the Craftsman style. I know in my head Craftsman, but you're not putting all the detailing on it. So that's one of the things is, as you're redoing, I don't know that your people would redo outsides as much, but that's why I thought.
Oh no, we have, the lots of people here are redoing outsides. They're doing soffits, siding, roofing, windows. Well, all the coolest people in the world listen to the show. You've now met them. They're all listening. But interior, exterior, residential, commercial, civil, institutional.
Oh, well, brilliant.
So this audience is not afraid of anything in construction.
Oh, well then.
But this is about the business of construction. So you're right down the alley. Like, how do we appeal to people's senses? How do we ask great questions and find out what they need? How do we stand out from our competition? How do we do things in a certain way so we get higher profit margins, which is okay to say on this show. We say it all the time, right?
Oh, no,
but still doing quality work.
That's one of the things our CEO, John Burns, always says is, it's great to do great design, but if you're not going to be able to resell or sell the home, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, it's lovely.
It's a nice school project.
Yeah, right.
Nice school project you just did. Yeah.
So, one of the things we're seeing with that pivot to modern, if you are redoing that exterior, am I saying go full bore modern and, black trim windows and flat roofs and whatnot? No, I think taking a modern take, and as much as, the modern farmhouse trend for the longest time with Chip and Joanna Gaines, that's kind of waning, and I'm seeing modern farmhouse continue, but pivoting away from that black and white style that they had. Sure. But I'm starting to see kind of modern takes on Craftsman, modern takes on Tudor, which is to me fascinating. They'll simplify, and then like the gables, they'll have like the sort of beams a little bit still, but it's that pivot to, okay, where do I spend the money? Because you want that street appeal, and you want that classic style. Because if you do something that's too trendy, okay, in 3 years you're now look dated.
Not trendy anymore. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it gives you guys more work, because then you could come back and redo it. But it's not trending anymore. It starts to look dated and people go, oh yeah, that was early 2000s or, early 2020 or, but by keeping with those classic styles and then just sort of doing a little bit more fun take on it, you can keep the cost down for your clients, but also
give them a little bit of difference. And people
Absolutely.
want to be just a little different. And, in this particular report, you're showing home exteriors and the alternating colors or materials for siding, for instance. Just do a different type of siding. For just talking in the language that we talk here, that's a great potential upsell or cross sell. It introduces new materials. And so you can have some kind of fun with that. If you've just gone to a trade show and you're like, how do I get a chance to use that type of siding package?
Yeah.
Not everything has to be beige vinyl siding or beige stucco, right? So, but if you do an alternating color, you could really stand out in the market and allow for a bigger, hopefully, profit margins, or just increase your status in the neighborhood where people are like, hey, that's a really cool renovator. They did something really neat. Let's use them later.
Yeah, I always think you want to set yourself apart, but you also don't want to alienate your neighbors, So creating the McMansion on the
purple McMansion, right? Or bright green or something. You have to really, really get out there.
In the midst of bungalows. But yeah, like that strategic pop of color, that cool accent of material, that can help set your clients' house apart and make them feel different and special and really reflect their individuality. And I think front doors are fun. You can play with those and add some color or add glass or, it's, what was the face for?
Well, because I was thinking of something, but it's self-serving. So I was wondering if I should ask it. So the first trades company I ever had was I installed Christmas lights on homes.
Awesome.
Of course, Dom, that's what he did, right? So I had a staple gun and a ladder. That was it.
Hey,
but there's also track lighting you can install on homes now. Actually, there's franchises that do it. But I guess if I was looking for ways to add value and stand out to my customers, finding other things that are important to them. If you find somebody where Christmas is a really important thing to them, or I guess any themed event, if they like Green Bay, there's colors that go with Green Bay, and you could light their house for Green Bay, right? People who are not Packers fans are just yelling right now at the show.
Yeah, they're shaking their fists
at you. Shaking their fists like that Rubino. But if you understand what I mean there, you have ways to add options in that would serve the customer's needs better. And it's an option. They don't have to take it. But if they do, that's a nice $15,000 uptick because you've just gone to the emotional side of what could have been a logical decision, right? Trying to find ways to really make the home. That's why it says cozy preferences with cost savings. I'm like, well, how do I use their preferences to help them make decisions that suit what they really want? And it could be landscaping, it could be paving, stamped concrete, whatever it is. But how do we do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like the other thing we talk about in the report is it's funny. I saw this in Country Living, and it made me chuckle because it totally aligned with what we're talking about. Is it was called a snug room, and I was like, and they were saying it was this little room that they used as a bedroom, kind of think really big walk-in closet size, so smaller than a secondary bedroom. And it had a little fireplace, and it was literally the people's guests' favorite room to stay in. And it was this tiny little cozy room. And so that really leans into one of the things, and this goes back to function edit too, but one of the things we're seeing is let's rethink the space of things. We always sort of lean into, okay, an office has to be the same size as a bedroom. It doesn't. In fact, actually, people want an office in their homes, but they don't want to waste the square footage of a bedroom. And so if you can give them like a little pocket office that has good lighting and privacy, and you have to, and this is where that consumer research comes in. You can rethink the size of things, but you still have to give them the function and capability. So the right plugs, the right, maybe include a window so you get the natural light. So when you're doing Zoom calls, you have the light on your face instead of the light behind your head, which gives you the halo effect.
That halo, or totally blocks out your face.
Yeah, or you get the witness protection program blacked out person. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff where it's it's looking at that function and rethinking the size of it and saying, hey, I know you want more square footage in, like you said, your kitchen or your great room or, your bedroom. And if I take some of that space I would have used as an office, I can give you that great office that suits your function and needs for, half. I've seen it was like a 6x8. So 6 foot by 8 foot. So it was kind of a almost half of, because I think 10x10 for a standard secondary bedroom, give or take.
Right. Yeah. Just a regular bedroom. Yeah.
So if you almost cut it in half, I've seen it was kind of a cool, like long hallway. But it was closed. It had a little like pocket, a barn door kind of thing to provide privacy. It had a little window. So it gave them the function. And this is the things that your listeners can talk about is, okay, you want an office, but how much space do you need? Do you want a built-in desk? Do you, are you
or like a Murphy type of desk where it folds out when you need it and back when you don't? And we all know it stays down as soon as you put it down. Nobody ever folds it back up. We all know, right?
Actually, I have a friend who has a cabin in the mountains, and her secondary bedroom, she has a Murphy bed, and she also has in the same sort of unit, it has a pull-down desk. And so she'll put up the desk when guests come over and pull down the bed, and then put up the bed and then pull down the desk so she can work from the mountains. So actually she puts hers up and down, but
maybe it's just a Dom thing. But once that desk is down, or that Murphy bed, I've never used a Murphy bed, but once it's down, I'm pretty sure it stays down.
Yeah, I've seen some really cool updated Murphy beds though. So I think that's where
some of the people listening to the show only make Murphy beds.
I think they're fantastic.
So cool. Like when they're up, they're themed for sports teams' lockers.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then you pull it down and some really fantastic designs with that.
Okay. Now, I don't want my husband to hear that, because then he's going to get Denver Broncos themed Murphy bed.
You should get him a Green Bay Packers one just to show him. I know I said that on purpose just because he's a Denver fan. But here's the other thing that's in my mind as we're talking about this, which is we're talking about snug spaces and small homes and making the best use we can, except that now technology's everywhere. So and I don't know if this is in the report and you might have some throwbacks to it, but we need places now where we can plug in 55 different things. Apparently the standard size for a television now is 100 inches. And then you got to have your Instapot, your air fryer, your blender, your BlendJet, your microwaves are now. I know that recently there's been a lot of changes on microwave plugs and the offsets inside of cabinetry. But anyways, kitchen gadgets are going through the roof.
Yeah.
TVs are getting bigger.
Yeah.
Right. How is that being dealt with in this kind of trend report?
One of my favorite things that I've seen, so I've seen an uptick in back kitchens again, prep kitchens. They were
right. Yeah.
Kind of that almost like butler's pantry, but not between the dining room and the kitchen. So it's sort of an oversized, amped up walk-in pantry. That has cabinetry and sometimes a sink, sometimes an oven, sometimes depending on how fancy we're going. But so I've seen that as a great sort of back storage space for all of our mini appliances. But then I've also seen, and I love these, appliance garages. So instead of the cabinetry opening, like it typically does, it opens like a garage. So it goes sort of out and up. And that's where you can. And I've even seen it where they have plugs inside. So I can leave my coffee maker in, and then I can just open up the little appliance garage, maybe pull out a little sliding tray or shelf, and then make my coffee and then push it back in and close the garage. And now I have this beautiful clean lined kitchen that always looks nice.
Right. And so you keep that clean countertop that some people love clean lines, like you said. And then you just mentioned the outdoor kitchen concept. Where does that fall in? Or is that really a reflection of the fact that we have less space inside and we're like, let's use outside the 3 months of the year? I guess depending where you live. In some places you can use it all year, but in others you really have limited time. To be outside.
Desert markets and places where it snows. Though Denver, we have 300 days of sun, so we have lots of
300 days of sun. But what's the temperature when it's November?
Hey, we get nice and actually November is nice. We'll still be in 40s and 50s. It's February that But no, I think outdoor kitchens, we've really seen an uptick in the demand for that in our research. And really, I see it as, well, part of it's entertaining. People love to entertain and we want to entertain outside. Part of it's also when we got stuck inside during COVID and we had to not go anywhere,
Yeah.
our outside spaces became precious. And so I think people started wanting to do more out there. So, covering the space so we have, or adding fireplaces and adding outdoor kitchens and adding bars. And I've
Tiki
seen
bars, the Jimmy Buffett Parrot Head bar, you have to have it.
well, I've seen, the little kind of bifold windows that go between kind of like an
Oh,
outdoor.
right. Yeah.
I've seen those kind of with an uptick in popularity. Because people are realizing, oh yeah, I could be in my kitchen and then I could talk to people outside and finishing up, making the
Yeah.
dip, So yeah, I think so that's one of the things. Not everybody knows about those little pass-throughs. Not everybody knows about the cool stuff you can do outdoors. And if people are, ask your clients, what do they want to do? Do they barbecue? Do they entertain? And what are the cool ways, because sometimes I always think about, sometimes they know what they want. And I think in the days of HGTV now and Pinterest and whatnot, they have so much more access to what they want.
To ideas. Yeah.
But the great thing with contractors and your audience is they can still come with their own ideas and say, hey, have you thought about, I know you said you really loved entertaining. Have you thought about doing a pass-through window? I think that might be really fun. Here, let me show you a cool picture. So knowing what's out there, going to the trade shows, seeing some of the fun stuff, sometimes you're like, great, yeah, I love it, but I'm never going to use that. But sometimes you're like, oh, wow, this is actually a cool opportunity for me to bring up that thing I saw or that thing I read about and recommend stuff. So yeah, it's stepping back and figuring out what they want and how can I best give that to them, tying it back around.
So talking about cool segues.
Yeah.
I'm about to ask you how people can find you in this big wide world, but
Sure.
You guys have a webinar coming up pretty soon if anybody wants more of this info. So I'll do my standard outro. Jenni Nichols, if somebody wants to find you in this big wide world, how the heck would they do that?
Sure. Dom, they can email me. So J Nichols, so J as in Jenni, Nichols, Nichols at jbrec.com. So John Burns Real Estate Consulting.com. So J Nichols at jbrec.com. And they can also check out our website, so newhometrendsinstitute.com. And then you mentioned the webinar. So we actually had done it a few months back, but I'm happy to share it with anybody.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was coming up.
No, it's actually done. So I can actually send a link to them.
Oh, good. Cool.
So if you guys email me, I'm happy to share a link to our 23 Trends for 2023 webinar. It gives you a lot of fun tidbits and insight on so much more than what Dom and I talked about.
Yeah. And so let me just do this on behalf of people listening, because some of the people listening have design teams, they have designers working for them. And if you're looking for a way to train and support your designers, what a great way to do that than to ask Jenni for the presentation and then sit down with your designer and watch X amount of it and have a discussion, then watch the next bit and have a discussion. And but that's what you need to do with our team, right? We need to talk to them about these things and let them get the ideas on the table. And that's how we get it off to the customer as well, right? We want to put our best foot forward because that customer is going to pay for us to stay open.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you for being on the show. It's gone by really, really fast.
I know, I was realizing.
Yeah, it went by really fast, but excellent information. And I love how passionate you are about these trends and everything that's going on and how homes can be used. It's clear that you really enjoy this and that you're trying to bring that information to people. And that's always very much appreciated.
Yeah, love
All
it.
right. Thanks, Jenni.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Well, Jenni, thank you for joining us for today's episode. I have a lot of notes in front of me. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see me looking down at my paper. Again, Jenni's with the New Home Trends Institute from John Burns Research and Consulting. We talked about a couple things here in depth. Now, the report that she was talking about has way more info. I knew that within the time frame that we have for the interview, we could only hit a couple of things with any amount of depth. And so the two that we hit was around home function and the trend towards cozy preferences. In the heading of home functionality, the main takeaway there is that consumers are rethinking their must-haves in a home. And so your opportunity for creativity is really on the table. Those of you who have a design background or like to bring creativity to the table, now's the time when people really want to hear about that creativity, because people are changing how they're using their home. And you want to make sure you take advantage of that. For those of you that are doing outdoor living stuff, you're probably seeing an uptick in people wanting to do outdoor kitchens, or like Jenni was talking about, that pass-through window, all of those interesting things. If you're already promoting those kinds of things, that's great. Double down. If you haven't been promoting those things, find an opportunity to bring that up in conversation. Remember, it always comes back to understanding your customers' why. Not the letter Y, the word, the question. Why? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to change your outdoor kitchen? Why do you want to change your bedrooms? Why do you want to add a dormer? Why do you want to landscape your yard? Find out their why. Listen very, very, very carefully, and then go back and dissect it piece by piece with them and dig into their why even more. And that's what Jenni was here to help us with. The second item that we dug into was cozy preferences aligning with cost savings. People are looking for simple and snug with unique touches. And again, those unique touches give you an opportunity. I know that I deal with lots of roofers and siding contractors across this show. This is an opportunity to have multiple types of materials applied to the outside of homes to give it a different touch, even though it looks basic. It's basically functioning the same. You've got alternate colors, alternate materials, right? That's on the exterior. What about on the interior of the home? What can you do to keep the home simple and snug, find simple, cost-effective solutions, but still give that homeowner a sense of uniqueness about their house? Because remember, at some point, they're going to be giving their friends a tour of this place. They're going to be giving their family a tour of this place. They're going to want to say, yeah, this is what we've got here. This is how it looks. But what we did that was a little bit different? And everybody's going to go, ooh, a little bit different. And then they're going to say, we should call your guy. And that's the phone call we want.